This is Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. Now, live from the Matt Black Kia Studios.
Oh, what an attack! What a move!
Here's Josh Hennig.
It is a Hump Day Wednesday edition of Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Of course, that means the Weinberg Wednesday as well. We have Dave Weinberg coming up on the show at 6:15. He does each and every week. It is your preparing for Thanksgiving Day. Of course, a huge football day. The news came down earlier today. A little bit less football on your Thanksgiving, though. The Ravens and the Steelers have been moved to Sunday, which is okay if you're an Eagles fan because the Eagles won't distract you from a busy Sunday in the NFL. No, the Eagles play on Monday night, so there's no having to worry about wanting to watch the Eagles and maybe something else. No, if you really wanted to flip back and forth between NBC, Fox, and CBS, you really can now and not have to worry about trying to prove you're a real Eagles fan because you have to watch the Eagles. Of course, you can hear the Eagles right here on 97.3 ESPN. Monday night coverage begins at 7 p.m. right after we are on the air. 609-403-0973, the PlaySugarHouse.com text board again. We'll get into some Eagles stuff with Dave Weinberg coming up. Very interesting tidbit just came down on the Ravens and their situation when it comes to this might be part of the reason why the game was postponed, and I'll get to that in just a moment. But we can't ignore Doug Pederson and his stumbling over himself again today. And if you haven't seen the quotes, if you haven't heard the quotes yet, and I'm not going to read the whole transcript, but basically Doug, again, is asked a very straightforward question, okay? After making this long statement about how I don't really pay attention to the media that much, I try to do the best for the team, blah, blah, blah. And he's asked right out front and said, "You're not making a quarterback move, right, Doug, to a different quarterback?" And Doug's answer was, "Not today on Wednesday, no." And the person who asked it, Tim McManus, tried to ask him multiple times for a little clarity, to the point where he finally asked him, "Is Carson Wentz your starting quarterback?" And Peterson said yes. Doug Pederson may not care what people think about outside the building, but he needs to start caring about how he sounds, period. I understand there's an element to sports where it's my job is to be the coach. My job is to be the GM. My job is to be the quarterback. And that's my only focus. That's my only job. Blah, blah, blah. I get that that's your job. But it's also your job to, when asked questions about said job, to give coherent answers. If your job requires you to answer questions, speak to the media, give presentations to a board, present information to your boss, the manager, if you're someone who makes a PowerPoint, for example, you got to be able to give answers that don't leave any level of questioning you, your intelligence, your aptitude. There should never be ambiguity. If you're making a PowerPoint at your job, okay, you're someone who's got a job, you got to make a presentation for a board or your managers or whoever. You can't have spelling errors in your PowerPoint. People are going to think you're nuts. You can't get up there and load the PowerPoint and say, "Oh, I forgot to add fill in the blank information." Well, people are going to assume that maybe you don't know how to do your job. If your job, part of it is explaining and portraying information, you can't use the excuse, "Well, I can't be worried about what anybody else thinks about me. I'm just focused on doing my job." But yet part of your job is communicating how you're doing your job. And I think that's where this disconnect is. Doug Pederson and Carson Wentz, who both have said multiple times They don't pay attention to the outside media. They don't focus on that. They're focusing on winning and trying to be the best they can be. Well, first of all, you're obviously...
Tomorrow, it's a Thanksgiving triple header. Hi, this is Westwood One Scott.
You're obviously not 100% focused on your job well enough for you to actually do it good, because you wouldn't have this record if you were actually 100% focused on your job. And maybe also you're a little too focused in your little bubble because you're ignoring any thought or idea outside of your bubble. Because sometimes the people on the outside can give you perspective, even if you're wrong, even if everyone who's on the radio, myself and Mike Gill and Hunter Brody, and everybody who's talking about Pederson wins, even if we're all nuts and wrong and we don't understand football and we're so stupid because we never played quarterback in the NFL, even if we're all wrong, sometimes you need to hear difference of opinion for you to better understand your own position. But Doug doesn't want to do that either. So Doug doesn't think it's important to communicate. He doesn't think it's important to listen to any other ideas. And he keeps giving these bizarre answers to questions. And you could tell me at 609-403-0973, at some point, it just seems like Doug is just not with it. And I don't know if he's doing it purposely. I don't know if his... No offense, but maybe someone's not preparing him well enough for some of these questions. Maybe Doug himself is not prepared himself to answer some of these questions. Maybe I don't know what the reason, but whatever the reason is, Doug, you got to be better, because when part of your job is answering questions, the excuse can't be, well, I don't listen to all the chatter outside the building, or I don't go ahead and listen and watch the media and absorb the media, and I don't know unless someone tells me. That's not a good enough explanation. You got to be better, Doug. And by the way, Doug, you've been around the NFL long enough to know how this works. You've been in the city long enough to know how this works. You got to be better. 609-403-0973, theplaysugarhouse.com. Text board 609-403-0973. This Ravens news literally dropped just as we were coming on the air. So Jamison Hensley of ESPN, he covers the Ravens. The Ravens released a statement saying, quote, "The Baltimore Ravens have disciplined a staff member for conduct surrounding the recent COVID-19 cases that have affected players and staff at the Ravens," unquote. I think it's fair to assume that part of the reason why there's not a game tomorrow night is because something happened. And it wasn't just a COVID-19 positive test here or there. Because for the Ravens to come out with a statement, we haven't heard statements like this happen before, right? There's no team out there making a statement like this previously. For a team to come out this specifically and say we have disciplined a staff member for a conduct surrounding recent COVID-19 cases. The Bill Belichick saying, do your job, sounds like somebody didn't do their job. And that in and of itself is concerning because these NFL protocols are very specific. There's no gray area. There's no, well, maybe this. This is not college football where one conference has one rule, another conference has another rule. No, the NFL is very specific with their rules and with their protocols. And for a team that come out with a statement like this explains a lot about exactly why this organization is not playing a game tomorrow night. And it's a shame because apparently one person or persons, they say it's a staff member, but we don't know who else may or may not have been involved in the situation. We just know what the Ravens are stating. It's if one person can cause a domino effect like this in this situation, it really has to make you wonder if there's maybe a little bit more going on behind the scenes than maybe we were previously told. Again, Ravens, Steelers on Sunday is not going to be tomorrow night. It'll be Sunday. So no third game with the Thanksgiving Day triple header. Of course, you can hear the doubleheader tomorrow on 97.3 ESPN. Coverage begins at 12 o'clock tomorrow. Lions versus Texans, followed by Cowboys versus the Washington football team. Of course, the winner of Washington versus Dallas is going to be the presumptive winner, or at least not the winner, but the new leader in the NFC East. So 609-403-0973, the playsugarhouse.com. Text board 609-403-0973. I'll get your text in just a little bit, but coming up next, we got Dave Weinberg for a Weinberg Wednesday. Talk Eagles and more coming up here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN FM and the 97.3 ESPN mobile app, powered by First Bank of Seattle City.
You're listening to Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
We'll get to your text a little bit later in the hour, 609-403-0973 on the playsugarhouse.com text board. But joining us each and every Wednesday, even on pre-Thanksgiving Eve, is Dave Weinberg for a Weinberg Wednesday. Because, nothing at all is going on with the Eagles or in the sports world. So, Dave, I'm not really sure what we have to talk about here because there's never anything going on with the Eagles.
There's always something with them. There's never a dull moment.
Yeah, and that's why I opened the show talking about Doug. I mean, Dave, I don't expect Doug to be an oratory expert. I don't expect him to be some linguistic savant. But the fact that he went out of his way today to say, I don't pay attention to what anybody says, I don't listen to the media, I only know what I'm told, and then literally stumble and fumble his way into confirming that Wentz is the quarterback. It's like, Doug, part of your job is to communicate. You're doing a bad job communicating.
Yeah, and I'm a little surprised by it, Josh, because, when he first took the job in 2016, and going forward, he came across as a pretty articulate, intelligent, insightful, even funny kind of guy. And I guess he just really hasn't handled this situation well at all this season. I don't know if it's because he went through his own personal struggles with COVID, but or maybe just the pressure of the job is finally getting to him. I don't know what it is, but it's clearly he's not the same coach, or maybe not even the same person that he was in the last couple of years.
Do you think that Doug is it possible that it's just a down year for Doug, and that we could just chalk it up to everyone has a bad year here and there when it comes to the game of football? Or is it possible that Doug himself is just not the same coach anymore?
I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt for this year, only because of the wacky scenario that everybody's experiencing. It's definitely not your typical NFL season. So I'm willing to, the way he's coached has been extremely disappointing, but I'm willing to give him a break for this year. And then if he is able to bounce back, next season, so be it. If not, then maybe the Eagles have to start wondering if he is the right guy for the job going forward.
Do you think there needs to be somebody? Is there somebody? I should even ask you this is a better question, because you've been around the Eagles. You covered them for many, many years. You saw them through different iterations of different coaches. Is there somebody in the building that can maybe communicate to Doug that, hey, Doug, no offense, man, but you kind of sound really bad when you say some of this stuff?
Well, it's I guess it's incumbent upon the media relations guys to kind of what they generally do is take whoever's scheduled to speak, whether it's Doug or Carson or what have you. They'll take them aside before the press conference and trying to kind of let them know what to expect and how to handle certain situations. I don't know if that's still happening. I would assume it is, but it's a little bit different now because of the Zoom conference calls, as opposed to being live with so-called with your interviewer and responding like that. So I'm not really sure how it's working this year, but it's not working too well.
Dave Weinberg joining us here for a Weinberg Wednesday here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Make sure you're following Dave on Twitter at Dave Weinberg19. Check out his extra point columns over at 97.3ESPN.com. Speaking of your extra point columns, Eagles, another embarrassing loss on Sunday. And I keep saying, Dave, and I feel like I don't hear this enough from, people at least outside this studio, but I don't understand how it's hard for certain people to understand that the Eagles' offense was directly accountable for 9 points scored on Sunday. The interception return for a touchdown and the safety. If Carson Wentz just plays like an average NFL quarterback, I don't need him to be a star. I think a defense that only allows 13 points, that should be good enough to win a game, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, generally they'll set the bar at like 17 to 20 even, and if the defense knows if they can hold, well, they expect that if they can hold the opponent to that number, usually it's around 17 that they expect to win the game. So yeah, 13 is more than enough. But unfortunately, this Eagles offense is just broken, and I don't see any fix coming anytime soon. They're just the wheels are falling off that Wentz wagon, and I'm not sure like what they can do to repair it at this point. He seems a little bit resistant to willing to try new things, to maybe be a little bit more patient with the football, make better decisions. And it's on Doug too. I mean, I don't know why they keep abandoning the running game that's working pretty well, and injuries on the offensive line. So I'm not really, I'm not too optimistic about turning it around this season at all.
On a bigger picture, is Carson Wentz salvageable as an Eagles starting quarterback?
Honestly, Josh, I don't know. Everybody points to that 2017 season, but maybe that was the aberration. Maybe that was just the flash in the pan. Maybe this is who he is, and if that's the case, then that doesn't bode well for the future, either the Eagles or his. Everybody wants to say, well, Frank Reich and John DeFilippo aren't here, and they were the ones who, made him the elite quarterback that he was. I tend to disagree. I think it was more Doug's doing than anything that allowed Carson to have that MVP caliber season. But it's definitely not that way now, and I don't know if there's a person or persons who can get to him that he'll respect and listen to enough to change the way he's playing. Maybe it's physically, maybe it's mentally, I don't know, but he's definitely not the same quarterback that he was a couple of years ago.
When I think about the way the NFL works, and this is just a macro NFL thought, when I look at the NFL, I know that there are quarterbacks drafted every year, but I feel like there's more bad head coaches than there are bad quarterbacks. And I feel like if it's not going to work with Carson Wentz long term, you can go find another competent quarterback, because at the end of the day, I don't need my quarterback to be Dan Marino, because Dan Marino never won a Super Bowl.
Right. They might already have one sitting on the bench or getting 2 snaps a game.
Right. He only gets 2 snaps a game. So we don't even know what he is.
Yeah, really. Jalen Hurts has won at every level of football he's ever played. I mean, whether it's with Alabama or Oklahoma or what have you, and that's not an accident. I mean, when you go from one program to another, and you're an elite player in both places, that tells me that you can play. And I'm not really greatly surprised that they haven't really given him more of an opportunity, but I think it's getting closer, though. I mean, if there's, everything's okay, or not okay, but everything is at least decent now. The fact that they're, despite all their troubles, are still in first place, at least till tomorrow anyway. And as long as they're in contention, I think Doug's probably going to ride it out with Carson. But if somehow he falls out of favor, if the Eagles, lose a couple in a row and fall behind in the playoff, in the division race, then why not give Jalen Hurts a shot? I mean, even as I wrote on Sunday, I mean, I think you should just sit Carson down one game, just to let him get his head clear, just to get another pair of eyes to see how the offense is supposed to work or whatever, but and put him back like they did with Donovan in 2008. I'm not saying bench him for the entire season, but I think Jalen I think he kind of deserves a shot to show what he can do.
Before we move on from the Eagles, I need your help with something here, Dave, because I have a texter who's texted in 2 days in a row now to the show, and I will read it again so you can have a genuine, pure reaction, because I had my own little fit about it yesterday on the air. But Mike from the Villas has chimed in again on the text board. He says he would take Rich Kotite over Doug Pederson.
Oh, please. Based on what? No. No. I don't. Did Kotite win a Super Bowl? I don't think he did he?
Well, also
No,
Kotite
that's-
Kotite won with Buddy Ryan's players.
Yeah, I mean, well, Rich wasn't like I'm in the minority. I don't think he was as bad as everybody's making him out to be. But I mean, he won with Buddy Ryan's players, but Buddy Ryan didn't win with Buddy Ryan's players.
Well, that's true.
I
You're
guess
right.
Rich deserves a little bit of credit there, but no, that's ludicrous. By the time his tenure ended here, he was a laughing stock, and that continued with the Jets. Rich is a very nice guy, but no, that guy's way. I don't know why he would keep texting that. That's ridiculous.
All right. At least I feel a little bit better about my own frustration with that text from yesterday and today. You know, sometimes I need a sanity check, Dave. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, I got you.
Speaking of sanity checks, I know it was a bit of an extra rough weekend for you because
You are correct.
Appalachian State, they lost a very fun, interesting game to Coastal Carolina. The final score doesn't tell the whole story because that was a close game until the very, very end. I thought that was one of the best college football games of all of Saturday. It was that game. It was Indiana, Ohio State. That it was up there with that game. So even though they lost, I think you got to give a hat tip to Appalachian State, Dave, not just because you're on the phone with me right now, because they're having a great season. And I think if that quarterback was maybe, maybe a little bit better, more decisive in some of his throws, they could have won that game.
Yeah, I mean, Zach Thomas has been tremendous throughout his career at App State, and he was coming off a fairly serious injury, neck injury that he suffered in their last game. So there was some doubt whether he was even going to play. I don't want to make excuses for them. I mean, they should have won the game, and they basically blew it, and that upset me. I'm kind of a homer when it comes to that, obviously, but being an App State alum, but it's. Yeah, if the braces didn't go their way late. I mean, he threw that late interception after allowing them to score to take the lead. They wanted to get the ball back and go ahead and go back down and get it. But, the running game was working tremendous in the first half. Just couldn't keep it up in the second half. And, I guess I got to give some credit to Coastal Carolina, although I still don't think they're that good.
Well, I think that, first of all, with App State, let's be realistic. It wasn't the final interception that did it. The earlier interception that he threw,
Yes.
That's when I was like, wait a minute, that's not a throw that he makes. This isn't a turnover. This isn't Carson Wentz out there. Okay, this is
No. Yeah.
You know what I mean? This is a quarterback who's not prone to turnovers, and that offense is built around, as you've seen even more than I have. The App State offense is built around not making risky plays. It's built around efficiency. So for him to throw that earlier interception, I was like, all right, this is not going their way. But on the second side, you mentioned Coastal Carolina. I think they have a good resume, but I don't think they're like the greatest team in the world. I think App State definitely could have beat them. But I don't like the fact that basically the college football committee is not rewarding them for the win. They're basically saying that it doesn't matter that Coastal Carolina beat a very good App State team, or they they really beat up a Kansas State team before half of everybody opted out of their season. They're basically saying that if you have two good losses, it's better than your wins, and I think that's kind of embarrassing.
Yeah, it is. I mean, they probably deserve. I mean, they have. What are they ranked? 15th, I think, something like that.
I think they're 17. I was double check on my list here, but they 15 was Oregon. I remember that specifically. So,
okay.
Sorry, 15 was BYU.
Yeah, they probably deserve a little bit more credit, but I mean, as long as like Cincinnati and they're the ones that are going to represent the outside the Power Five to in the bowl games. I think they're a really good team. I mean, they're legit, Cincinnati, and Coastal Carolina is too. I mean, they set a record for the best start in the Sun Belt Conference at 7-0, which broke the record that App State had. But I don't know. Maybe they just think that it's like a one-year wonder with them. I don't know because they're not really known for the tradition. I mean, not to say that App State is Ohio State or USC or whatever or Notre Dame, but I mean they have won 4 straight Sun Belt conferences. They are known as a legitimate team that quite frankly got ripped off against Penn State a couple of years ago, and everybody knows about them beating Michigan a few years back. So they're capable. They're a legit national caliber team.
Right.
And I don't know if Coastal Carolina is ready to be anointed that yet.
Yeah, the College Football Committee put Coastal Carolina at 20, Cincinnati at 7, BYU at 14, Oregon at 15. I don't know. I'll get this into more of this a little bit later, but I hate the way that these people evaluate college football sometimes because, listen, I don't expect anyone to think I'm a college football expert because I'm not, but I love college football, and I feel like if I watch enough football, I know who's good and who's bad. And for these committee members to give me this, this fugazi explanation about how, the eye test and the analytics, I'm sorry, but Wisconsin played 2 garbage teams. They played 1 good team and they lost. But you're telling me Wisconsin's better than Coastal Carolina? I mean, stop.
Yeah, I agree with you. There. I think they rely too much on reputation, the conference that the guys are in, rather than, like you said, like the eye test. They don't. Analytics shouldn't have any part of this. I don't think. But they traditionally they rely very heavily on the SEC, Big Ten, to some degree the Pac-12, I guess. But yeah, they don't give enough credit to teams from other conferences that also are enjoying outstanding seasons. You're right there.
Dave Weinberg joining me here for a Weinberg Wednesday here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at Dave Weinberg19. Dave, in the high school football front, a lot of the traditional high school games got pulled this week for COVID-19 and various other reasons. And pretty much the only games left this week were Middle Lower Cape May, Holy Spirit Atlantic State tomorrow. Vineland, Millville's going to play on Saturday as far as we know still. So it really feels like COVID didn't just, mess with the season, but it took out some of the biggest community rivalries in the region.
Yeah, it's a shame, man. By the way, Middle's leading 20-7 last time I checked. I'm a Lower Cape May grad, so I'm kind of following that.
No,
the Anchor Bowl.
Yeah, but it's a
huge,
always
big.
Right. It's but the thing is with these rivalries are a huge part of the region. It's a huge part of the community. Yeah. And to see so many of these games get kicked to the wayside because of a COVID issue or a logistics issue or whatever the issue may be, it just makes you hate 2020 even more.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I mean, high school football rivalries, Thanksgiving rivalries are a very special part of the region, like the sports landscape. Like you said, it's kind of like lifeguard racing almost. It's so unique to the area. And you're talking about Vineland Millville, been playing since the 1800s. Ocean City Pleasantville been playing since like 1912, I think. They even had players like going fighting World War I at one point. I mean, it was just it's just a shame these schools. It's a tradition that goes back centuries, really, and the fact that some of these teams were not able to play each other. Pleasantville, Ocean City. That's a really big game. It's really a shame that that wasn't able to be played. I'm glad that Ocean City found another opponent to play with Williamstown, but it's definitely not the same as playing Pleasantville on Thanksgiving. So yeah, it's really a shame. And like you said, it's just another example of how crazy this year has been so far.
I haven't asked you about this yet, but how do you feel about them pushing off the basketball and a lot of the other winter sports until basically the end of January?
Good move, I think. Yeah, it just seems like everything seems to be getting ramped up a little bit as far as COVID's concerned. Schools seem to be getting hit a little bit harder than they were. I think it's the right move. I mean, I'm disappointed in that as well. I mean, I'm a big fan of the Christmas tournament at Wildwood every year. I make it a point to stop by there and watch a game or two when I can. And they're not, they've banned like out of state games now, and they're not playing until January 24th or something. I think something like that. So it's a shortened season, just like they did with the fall. I'm really curious to see what's going to happen with wrestling That doesn't even start until March. And, as I assume everybody knows in the area, that the state wrestling championships are one of the biggest events that Atlantic City Boardwalk Hall has, Jim Whalen Boardwalk Hall, that it has every year. And I don't know, that seems like that's in real jeopardy. So it'd be interesting to see how that all unfolds.
Yeah, a lot of things to keep an eye on. Dave, before I let you go, and I always appreciate your time. So this Sunday is a very interesting situation now because the Ravens-Steelers game has been moved to Sunday because of their own COVID situation. Apparently, the news just came out when I hit the radio today that a Ravens staff member apparently is the fault for a lot of the COVID problems with Baltimore. So they've moved the game to Sunday. So now at 1:15 on Sunday, you will have 3 networks simultaneously with games. It will be the Ravens and Steelers with a 1:15 kick on NBC, and then you'll have your Fox and CBS games all flying on television at the same time. So, how would you plan on navigating a football Sunday with 3 different major networks, all with games on at the same time?
Thank God for the red zone. Yep. And one thing, I will not be watching that Mike Tyson, Roy Jones Jr. farce that's going to be happening this weekend. That's a total joke.
Well, that's why I didn't ask you about it, because I don't care about it.
Oh, good. Good for you.
Listen, I'm Mike Tyson was Tyson a long time ago. Whatever this is now is not Mike Tyson to me. So that's how I look at it.
You're exactly right.
Let me know when a real boxing match is going on, and I'll watch that. I don't watch it. I learned my lesson years ago when it was Roy Jones Jr. Was it Bernard Hopkins he fought? It was like 2011 or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember that was one of the most boring things I ever saw in my life. And I always told myself, I'm never going to waste my time or money to consume anything that could potentially be a circus ever again, because I was so excited for that fight because I'm a huge Hopkins guy. And it's one of those fights you're like, oh, great. At least they're going to fight now at some point. And it literally looked like just 2 guys who were just hanging out, having a siesta while standing up.
Yeah, I mean, Bernard kind of has that style anyway. But yeah, you're right. I mean, it doesn't do boxing any good to have these kind of things. It just does. It's like a glorified sparring session. I don't know why they're doing it. Both guys are well past their prime. I guess they can make a couple bucks. Hopefully, you donate to charity. That would be the only reason I would think they would do it. But I'm certainly not going to waste my money on it.
Yeah, that's why I didn't ask you about it. So, well, good. At least you're on the red zone bandwagon. I know Mike Gill's not on the red zone. He's not a red zone guy, but I like red zone. I like the fact that I can basically consume all these games at one time without having to have 3 different screens running at once. So.
Oh, I love the red zone. I'm addicted to that.
All right, Dave Weinberg, the endorsement for Red Zone. We'll let Scott Hansen know that Dave Weinberg endorses Red Zone. Dave Weinberg joins us every Wednesday here on Game Night. Weinberg Wednesday. Follow him on Twitter at Dave Weinberg19. Check out his extra point columns at 973ESPN.com. And don't forget about Dave Weinberg's podcast, Tequila and Touchdowns with Dave Weinberg. And he joins us as all guests on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. Dave, always appreciate the time and the conversation.
Thanks, Josh. I appreciate it. Have a happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving to you as well. Of course, Thanksgiving Eve tonight here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Game Night, of course, being brought to you by PlaySugarHouse.com. Place your legal sports bets at PlaySugarHouse.com. Sign up now and then match the first deposit up to $250. Must be 21 or older to play. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. We'll get back to the text board next, 609-403-0973. Here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN FM and the 97.3 ESPN mobile app, powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City.
Now, more Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Game Night here on 97.3 ESPN. Text board, we'll get to that next here on 97.3 ESPN, 609-403-0973. Plus, in a few moments, it's an opportunity for me to give you my picks for tomorrow's Thanksgiving Day games, as well as I'm going to crush the college football playoff committee. Before we get to that, Game Night being brought to you by weightliftinghq.com. Guys, you know how passionate I am about health, fitness, weightlifting, and more. And when I heard about weightliftinghq.com and what they can do for my fellow health and fitness enthusiasts, I was very impressed. Weightliftinghq.com is a local company right here in South Jersey that operates fully online. So you don't have to go to a store. You don't have to go to a location. No, you go right there online. And they cater to all types of weightlifters and health and fitness enthusiasts who are interested in working out from home. Got, of course, Black Friday weekend, Cyber Monday coming up, Christmas a few weeks away, right after the Thanksgiving holiday. So it's an opportunity for you to get for yourself or someone you care about some high-end weightlifting and fitness equipment like bench and squat racks, kettlebells, dumbbells, cardio and fitness machines. Also accessories like heart rate sensors, fitness watches, resistance bands, and more. You can't beat their local customer service for their equipment delivery services. That's right, they deliver it right to your home. So you don't have to go pick up the equipment. You don't have to go figure out how to set it up. You don't have to sit in front of that huge diagram for about 10 hours of your life and feel like you lost a day of your life because you're trying to put together this equipment. No, they deliver it for you. They set it up for you. They are incredible the way they do things. And don't forget about incredible competitive prices. Check them out online at weightliftinghq.com and use the code RADIO10 at checkout for 10% off your entire order. That's RADIO10 for 10% off your entire order at weightliftinghq.com. Let's get the text board here, 609-403-0973. I know a couple of you have texted in here to get in on the conversation. First of all, a shout out to the texter who sent me his Wawa message in the middle of his other text messages. That's just tremendous. You, my friend, are you're cool with me. That's good. Not just because you're eating Wawa, but because you texted in and let me know that you didn't mean to send that to me. But I still appreciate you because you texted in earlier, Tom from the Villas. He says, I think we need to leave 27 Wentz in 2017, just like we had to leave 27-2 in Super Bowl MVP Foles in both of those timelines as well. We need to look at Wentz we have with him with clear eyes now. Have a great Thanksgiving. Talk to you Monday. That's Tom in the Villas. Well, Tom, first of all, happy Thanksgiving to you. Second of all, I love the usage of the term timelines because as a Marvel comic book and movie geek, I can appreciate the usage of science fiction timeline concepts in any conversation. But third of all, you're 100% right. There may be something to what Dave Weinberg said earlier, but the fact that maybe Wentz is never going to be 2017. Maybe just because he has it in him doesn't mean he's able to reach back down and get that again. So you're right, Tom. Maybe we just need to move on. Maybe we just need to just let it go. So you're right. Tom in the Villas, good text. Hope you have a great Thanksgiving. We actually will be back on the air on Friday. So I'll be on the air with Hunter on Friday, right after the college football game tomorrow. We'll be on the air for about 3:45 to 7 p.m. I'll be on the air Saturday after Billy Schweim in the locker room. I'll be on the air at 12 to 2 for Sports Bash Saturday with Deshaun Hendricks. We'll be reunited again. And then I'll be back on the air Monday. Hunter Brody and I will do the full Sports Bash filling in for Mike Gill from 2 to 6 here on 97.3 ESPN. Dan from EHT asked a question way too early. Happy Thanksgiving to you as well, Dan from EHT. We appreciate you always texting into the show, enjoying the conversation. What is the recipe to be in the Eagles? For the Eagles to beat the Seahawks? Well, first of all, we're on Wednesday, so this recipe may change in a few days depending on what could happen between then and now. But I think it's very simple. Carson Wentz needs to stop making these mistakes. He needs to be a better decision maker. He needs to get the ghosts out of his head. He needs to get whatever's on his shoulder telling him to make these dumb mistakes and stop making those mistakes. That's part of the recipe. The other part of the recipe is Doug Pederson needs to come in with a better game plan. He as well needs to get his head out of the sand and realize that what he's done so far is not working. I mentioned it on Monday. I've heard the term used by other people, and I'm going to reappropriate it again and again. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing again and again and thinking there's a different outcome. And the Eagles need to stop being insane. 609-403-0973, theplaysugarhouse.com. Text, I promised you a couple picks for tomorrow. So the Texans and Lions game, last time I checked, was 51.5 was the over-under at DraftKings and playsugarhouse.com. So I say go the over. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. And the news came out just now that Cowboys strength and conditioning coach Marcus Paul, who was the reason why team facilities were shut down yesterday morning, he has officially passed away after he collapsed in his office at the team facility yesterday. It was not COVID-related at all. It's something completely different. But I think his death is going to spur this Cowboys team to win big. So what I would do, and I've already done it actually, if I was recommending for you to get involved in a little action, they call it skin in the game out there tomorrow, the over-under, I would say go with the over-under on the Lions-Texans game and then take the Cowboys outright tomorrow because I think the Cowboys are going to win this game for the strength and conditioning coach. The strength and conditioning coach is the heart and soul of a lot of teams. And, Marcus Paul was a guy who had been there. Yeah, he's only been the strength and conditioning coach since 2018, but he's been in and around football since the 90s. So he's a guy that a lot of players know. He's been a lot of coaching staffs since the 90s. So the guy's going to get up and play for him. Before we get out of here, I got to lambaste the College Football Playoff Committee. I mentioned this on Twitter last night, and 280 characters isn't good enough for me because I got to bring it up again. It is a complete embarrassment that this committee wants you to think they are objective because they're not. For you to have Georgia, who's 5-2, and Oklahoma, who's 6-2, both ahead of Indiana and BYU, is a complete insult to everyone's intelligence. What you're basically saying is that you value the two losses of those schools over an Indiana team that went blow for blow, whose one loss is way better than Georgia's two losses, because Georgia got blasted in those losses. And then BYU, who's 9-0. I mentioned earlier, Wisconsin's 2-1. Their two wins are against two of the worst teams in the Big Ten. But they're ahead of Coastal Carolina and USC. The College Football Playoff Committee, they can use all the excuses they want. Analytics, the eye test. No. You're intellectually dishonest. You're a bunch of megalomaniacs. And you all should be embarrassed and ashamed of yourselves that this was your first College Football Playoff Committee ranking. Do better. I'm Josh Hennig. This is Game Night. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.